Welcome to Invisible No More, the podcast where we explore triumphs over trauma and the powerful journeys of healing and resilience. I'm your host, Shannon Huff, and together we'll shine a light on the stories of strength, hope, and the paths we forge to reclaim our lives. Let's dive in. All right, welcome back to Shield of Sisters. This is Invisible No More. Today I'm here with Wendy. My name is Shannon Huff. Wendy actually served in the Army, and she served the same time as our friend Jane did, correct?
Correct.
You all were in boot camp at the same time?
Nope, I was a couple years ahead of her, but
Okay.
we were in the same unit.
Okay. So you went in 84?
I went in 86.
Okay. Wow. And where did you do boot camp?
Fort Dix, New Jersey.
Okay, so you went to Fort Dix as well. Okay.
Yes.
She told me a little bit about the story in the last episode, and I was trying to make sure I had all the details right, and obviously I didn't. So,
Yep, she was a couple years behind me.
So tell me a little bit about why you joined the military and what was your experience like when you joined?
I joined because I wanted to do something different, something I never done before. Get a lot of people, get away from the farm, basically. So get away from the life I was into. I tried college, that didn't work, so I decided to take a couple years off and go into the military.
Okay. Were you the first woman in your family that served?
Yes.
Yeah, so was I. It's different when you're the girl in the family that leaves to join the military than the guys. I got treated a little differently. Like everybody was very upset.
Same here. My dad actually put it out that he goes, it's one thing to hear your son isn't going into battle. It's different when it's your little girl.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell my husband that when he deployed, we're used to that. But then when my son deployed, it was just horrific for me. I was like, I can't have any more kids. I can get another husband. He didn't like
Yeah.
I was like, that's easy, but I can't have any more kids. It's definitely different when it's your child compared to, a spouse or
it's even different between your little girl and your son.
Yeah.
It's like they expect that of the sons, especially like my dad's Vietnam era. So especially that.
Yeah.
The son, they almost expect it because they were at the time of the draft, but us girls, it's like they're still protective of us. They're little girls.
My daughter joined the Marine Corps and about puked. I was just unbelievably distraught over her joining the Marine Corps, mostly because of what happened to me. And I was like, please don't join. But I couldn't tell her my story. I wasn't, I just kept begging her not to join. So, and I know back in the Vietnam era, there was quite a few sexual assaults. I'm sure your dad was worried about stuff like that. So tell me a little bit about your experience in the military and how you were treated as a woman.
Well, in basic training, I was one of the few people who actually loved basic training, but my recruiter gave me the best advice possible. He says it's going to be the hardest thing you ever did, but on the other hand, think of it as an adventure because it's something you never did before. And that was my attitude when I went in. And once I got out of the reception station, I loved it. When I got to my permanent party, which was Dugway, Utah, Dugway Proving Grounds, it's like us girls were treated a little different. We were segregated in a way, but so I don't know how to explain it. It's like we were segregated, and yet we still did everything with the guys, but we also had our own little world. Like we had a command inspection with from our testing evaluation command. General came down and they actually said that our girls are treated like princesses. And one of the girls actually, he opened the door right at the right time because she had veils and everything else from around her bed and stuff. But I was almost treated because I was so small. I was 100 pounds, 5 foot 5 foot nothing. So I was almost treated like everyone's little sister, so to speak. So I was, in that way, I was lucky than a lot of the other ones. I didn't go in there. I'm a female trying to prove myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a lot of them I've seen, and then calm down.
So you were kind of treated like the little sister and protected?
Yes, a lot of ways.
I think we all experience that in some way. There's our brothers that we have in the military, you know, they're like, mess with her and you're messing with me kind of thing. But then there's the other ones who see women in the military as an opportunity to date, or we won't be graphic and name all the other things they say about us. One of the things we talk about, and this, is the military sexual trauma, the things that happen to, the 1 in 3. What did you experience?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
What did you experience in the military? The 1 in 3, the assaults.
I experienced Mine actually came. I didn't get it from Apparencios, or mine actually came from my husband.
Okay.
And unfortunately, in Utah, they have the law that states that once you say yes, you can never say no again. So that was where I stood. So,
goodness, was he military?
With that, it went on for years. Yep. So we all, like I said, with him, it wasn't only sexual; it was physical too. So. And verbal. So it's like I was in one of those non-win situations.
Yeah. Yeah. And he was a soldier?
He started out as a soldier and then he got out. And so we were given base housing. Everyone on Dugway, because we were 80 miles in the middle of nowhere. Everyone had to stay on post.
Oh, okay. Did the command do anything to him for what he was doing to you? Did you report your own husband?
They suspected. I never reported it. I was one of these, like I said, I didn't report it until I was actually out of that unit in the National Guard and divorced from him. I reported it to my first sergeant what was going on during my custody battle for my sons.
So you have 2 whole different levels of betrayal, Wendy. You have a spousal betrayal. You have a military betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I can't imagine. It's one thing to be assaulted by someone you don't know, or, date rape, or any of the other scenarios that happen in the military. But for it to happen at home, that's a whole different level of pain. And I don't know how I would handle that. What are some of the things you did to cope with what was going on? Because like a lot of times, if it's someone you work with or someone you've dated, you can kind of get away from them, but you went home to it every day.
Some of the things I did is, I don't know about, like, you were Navy, the Army has rec centers, where art centers, where I went and I did ceramics, so I could get away from him and go do ceramics with friends and stuff. And he never had any interest in any of that. So I would put Josh to bed. At the time I had one son. I put Josh to bed, and then I would go and do my ceramics and my arts and crafts with my friends and stuff. And that would at least get me a couple hours away from the house,
right,
so to speak.
Oh, goodness. I commend you for finding ways to get out of the situation. I know oftentimes people who are, physically abused, the whole domestic role of abuse and assault, it's hard to get away sometimes, and you're confined to your house, and there's so much control. There's a control factor there. Um, I- so what was your defining moment where you left? Like you were able to say, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm leaving. You can't do this to me anymore.
It was after, well, I was still in the guard, but it was later that it was like all of a sudden I wanted to go back to school, and he was like, no, you have the kids to take care of. I couldn't do anything on my own. I was all constantly, he was telling me I was stupid. I didn't have the brains to do it. I graduated college cum laude, so I'm a straight A student. But it was like, but to him, I was stupid. Mm-hmm. So it was like, I finally got tired, and I took a friend of mine who was to help back me up. And I came home one day. We were working. He was off. We worked Saturday. She brought me home, and he met us at the door, and he actually said, I'm sorry. The house is such a mess, but Wendy didn't clean it. And Reba looked straight at him and goes, you were home all day. Why didn't you clean it? And that's when I was like, hey, wait a minute. Yes, I can do this. I can start standing up for myself.
Yeah.
It took her kind of backing me up to help me, prod me away from that situation.
Well, I'm glad you had a friend that stood up for you and gave you permission to stand up for yourself. I think sometimes it takes someone else standing up for us to realize we can do it as well.
Correct.
I think especially in this day and age, we have a lot of dual military couples. And there are instances where we have assaults going on. There's so many different ways of sexual assault and rape. What would you tell a sister who is going through something similar?
Tell them there's always a way out. Don't do like I did and keep it all in. Your company commander's there. Go now, post have. Back then, it was the secret. It was the silent secret back in 86, 87, 88. Now they've got people on post that you can go to, that you can discuss this and help you have the resources to get out of it. Please use those resources.
Absolutely. There's so much that's changed even since I was in, 30 years ago. We didn't have Sharp, Sark, Sapro, all of the different things they have now. One of the things I wanted to kind of touch base on, you came to a retreat recently.
Yep.
And, there's so many things we do at the retreats, the letter, the paintings and things. What was one of the most impactful parts of the retreat for you?
I think it was the burning of the letter. It was like that signaled, that's behind us. That's gone. I'll always live with it, yes, but that's not going to control my life anymore. Mm-hmm. We're carrying around that sack for that day. It's like, it made me realize that that's a burden I was carrying. And then when I could burn that letter, it's like, hey, let me look forward now.
Right. Something as simple as carrying something heavy around. It's very metaphorical, but something in your mind just triggers and says, oh, why am I doing this? Kind of like you're saying, like,
exactly.
I don't have to do this. And so, I'm glad that worked with you and helped you. That was one of my biggest parts. I had a bowling ball, that I carried around. And I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I carrying around this 10-pound thing that's only hampering my life? And it was just kind of like, oh, it's hampering my life. My trauma is hampering my life. And I didn't want anything to hamper my happiness anymore. So, I appreciate you sharing I know it's never easy to share our stories. We don't, unless we, unless you give permission, to tell your story or say, yeah, I'll tell my story. We don't tell each other's trauma because, like I was talking with Angela, trauma is trauma, abuse is abuse, assault is assault, harassment is, but trauma is the common factor here besides being women in the military, right? And just because it's not as bad as one person or it's worse than another person doesn't mean we're not carrying that pain around. So understanding how to put it down is so important.
Yep.
And
that was one thing with me. It's how to do it. And that when, like I said, burning that letter signified that for me. It just kind of clicked. That's when it really clicked.
Yeah.
That I could put this behind me.
And there's going to be times it might come around and like, oh, something happens, or, for me, sometimes it's a smell. And I'm like, oh, but the resources and tools I have now are so important for me and they help me so much. So, just the metaphorical exercises, the things we do, might seem silly at the time, but it's a process. Everything has to have a process to be restored, right? I mean, you don't just go, oh, it's restored just because you say it is. So, I commend you for continuing to work on it all these years later, and trying to better your life every day.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's some days, as you said, it's sometimes it can be just something someone says will trigger something, or talking to someone will trigger it. And then I remember, wait a minute, I've got this to do. I've got that to do. I've still got this to, and that's something that the retreat helped me with, to look beyond the trauma.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to seeing you at our conference. I don't know if this will air before then, but I look forward to seeing you again. We've had a lot of great conversations, and I appreciate the new friendship and the sisterhood that we've created. I appreciate you telling your story. And as we were talking before we started recording, I asked you to keep the snow on your side of the state, and I look out and it's snowing here. So you didn't follow directions, but that's okay.
Nope, I did.
But it's been such a pleasure talking to you and getting to know you. And I just want to thank you for giving Shield of Sisters the opportunity to work with you and help you, because it helps us as well. It helps me. Part of this is my healing journey. And every time I can help someone else, it just makes my life even better.
Yep, thank you.
All right.
This was like I said, it was a remarkable experience.
I'm so glad. And it only continues, right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this up. I thank you for spending some time with me this afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for Invisible No More, episode 14. We will definitely be back with some more. We're finishing up season 1 here soon. And as always, you can visit us on our website. And if anything you have heard is triggering or you need help, call 988, press 1. If you are in the same situation as Wendy with, a domestic abuse situation, go to your command, contact safe houses, do whatever you have to do to get out of that situation. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you for those in our Founders Circle: Walmart, Superbio, Sauk County Veteran Service Office, and USAA for your continued support. If you're interested in joining our Founders Circle, reach out to me at shannon@shieldofsisters.com or 608-344-0210. And don't forget to like and subscribe to stay updated on our newest episodes of Invisible No More podcast.